Hey everyone, today let's talk about non-registered accounts. What are they? How do they work? And what are some things we should be aware of? So let's jump right into things. What is a non-registered account? It's an account that we can utilize alongside our RRSP and our TFSA. This account is also known as a taxable or open account. You typically have to be 18 years of age or older, or 19 in some provinces, to open an account, and you can hold this account as long as you'd like. Let's now look at the contributions. Any contribution you make into this account are not tax deductible like an RRSP. Any investments you hold within this account can earn investment income such as interest income, dividends, and capital gains. There are no contribution limits. There are also no withdrawal limits either. So this does offer some flexibility on the contribution and withdrawal side. However, some withdrawals might be subject to tax based on the capital gains. So it's always good to double check before you do a full withdrawal. And we'll talk about the capital gains a little bit in this video as well. Let's now look at the different types of accounts, starting with the most conventional, the cash account. In this account, you can buy securities like stocks, ETFs, mutual funds, REITs, and other securities. You can also open up an individual account for yourself or a joint account with either your spouse or common law partner or someone like a friend or other relative as well. The second account would be the margin account. And with this, you're typically taking a lot more risk because you're borrowing to invest. Let's now jump right into the taxes. As mentioned previously, you can get different types of investment income such as interest income, dividends, and capital gains. So let's look at how the taxes work for each, starting with interest income. If you were to receive investment income from either a GIC, a bond, or a dividend from a foreign corporation, that would be 100% taxable based on your gradual tax rate. What this means is that this amount would go into your employment income along with other taxable income as well. Then we have dividends. Now, dividends are usually treated a little bit more preferred due to the dividend tax credit and the gross up mechanism. So I'll put a link down below if you're curious to see how the dividend tax credit and gross up work for these dividends. And then finally, we have capital gains. And these are typically triggered when you sell a security for a profit. But you have to be aware of the inclusion rates based on your situation. For example, individuals up to $250,000, there is 50% capital gains tax applied. And for corporations, that capital gains tax rate is 66.67%. And the best way we can look at this is through an example. Let's say I have $10,000 to invest, and I like the company Apple. So I choose to invest in the company. The company's done extremely well, and the next month my $10,000 is now worth $11,000. That $1,000 would be considered a profit. Only when I sell a stock would that be a capital gain. So let's say I do sell. Now the $1,000 profit that I made is going to be considered capital gains. But because of that 50% capital gains tax rule, only $500 of that would be subject to tax. Let's now look at the capital loss rules. We know how a capital gains works in terms of selling a security for a profit, but what happens if I sold a security at a loss? If that were to happen, I can use that capital loss to offset any gains in the current year, or I could carry it back 3 years and forward indefinitely. However, you must be aware of the superficial loss rule, and this is very, very important. This rule states the following. If you were to sell an investment at a loss, it cannot be deducted as a capital loss if the following occurs. The identical investment is repurchased within 30 days before or after the disposal by you, your spouse, or other affiliated persons, and you or a person affiliated with you still own or have right to buy the shares 30 calendar days after the sale. But who is an affiliated person? Let's look at that as well. That would be your spouse or common law partner, a corporation controlled by you or your spouse or common law partner, a partnership and a majority interest partner of the partnership, and finally, a trust where you or your spouse are a majority beneficiary, such as an RRSP, a TFSA, or a RIF. And we can look at this through an example. So using Apple again, I invest that $10,000. But in this case, Apple's performing poorly and the stocks come down. My $10,000 contribution is now worth $9,000, which means I have a $1,000 capital loss when I sell the stock, which I do. But I'm hearing that news is coming out on Apple and the stock is poised to go up. So a few days later, I rebuy Apple. In this scenario, I wouldn't actually be allowed to claim my capital loss because I repurchased the security within the 30 calendar days. If I wanted to use my capital loss, I would have to wait until the 31st day to make that purchase of Apple again. And because the superficial loss rule also states an identical security, given that example of Apple again, I couldn't buy Apple at the current institution or a different institution because it's an identical security to the one I just sold, which again would be Apple. And this also applies to ETFs and mutual funds as well, given the fact that if I were to repurchase them after selling them at the current institution or another institution and they had the exact same holdings, the superficial loss rule would apply. But there is one way you can bypass this. If you were looking to still get exposure to Apple without actually repurchasing the Apple shares, you could look at a similar ETF or a mutual fund that holds that Apple position within it. And this would allow you to still claim your capital loss because it is materially different. And the benefit is you would get exposure to other securities in this as well. Let's now look at non-registered accounts at death. If you were to hold an individual non-registered account, there may be taxes on your final tax return, including income taxes on capital gains, as well as probate fees. But if you held an account jointly with your spouse or common law partner, due to the right of survivorship, your account would transfer over to that surviving joint account holder. But what if your joint account holder was someone other than your spouse or common law partner? In this case, you would have deemed to have disposed of your portion of the account at fair market value immediately before death for income tax purposes. Any resulting capital gains or losses are to be reported on your final tax return. So if you made it this far and stayed till the end of this video, I do appreciate you as always. Thank you so much. It truly means a lot to me. And I hope that I can make more educational videos like this for you in the future. So if you did like this, I do kindly ask that you hit the like and subscribe button below. And I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.